Hi, my name's Kyle. I'm going to show you how knowledge of biomolecular interactions can help you in the kitchen. First, we're going to make an egg white foam, and then follow that up by making a vinaigrette. Let's say you want to make an angel food cake, or a souffle, or meringue. All these things contain egg white foam. Egg white foam is nothing but egg whites whipped into a foam. However, there's a catch to this.
Let's say for a moment this represents an albumin protein within the egg white, in particular olive albumin. Right now this protein is in its natural globular structure. However, this structure will not help us make an egg white foam. We need linear proteins to do that. We can linearize this protein by mechanically breaking some of the intermolecular forces holding it together. However, over time these forces will cause the protein to return to its normal structure. We can get around this by introducing acid in the form of tartaric acid. This acid will protonate the side chains of some amino acids, which will denature the protein and prevent it from reforming its globular structure.
If we do a good job, we can make a foam that looks something like this. Tiny bubbles of air suspended inside a matrix of proteins. As long as we have linear proteins and they don't revert back to our globular shape, we can keep this foam. But the only way we can keep this is if we throw in our acid in the form of tartaric acid.
To make our foam, we'll need the following items: a large metal mixing bowl, a hand mixer, 4 eggs, a bowl to hold the whites, a whisk, cream of tartar, that's our tartaric acid, and a ½ teaspoon measuring spoon. We will start making our egg white foam by separating the egg whites from the yolks. To do this, we'll crack the egg on a flat surface and use the shell-to-shell method to separate the whites from the yolk. Please do not get any yolks in the whites or this will not work. We will now add the whites from our 4 eggs to our large mixing bowl. We need to use metal for this because plastic bowls can hold on to fats, and the fats will prevent the foam from forming. We'll then add ½ teaspoon of tartaric acid. After we've added the tartaric acid to the egg whites, we'll start to whisk it to incorporate the acid into the whites and form a froth. At this point, we're starting to incorporate air into the mixture. We could do this with the hand mixture to begin with, but we'd likely make a mess. We're just going to continue doing this until we get a good froth forming. Once we get a froth that looks something like this, we can stop and switch to our hand mixer. This is the part where we're really going to start making our foam. We're going to incorporate a lot of air and a lot of tiny bubbles. Since we added tartaric acid to our egg whites, this foam is actually going to come together much faster than it would otherwise. But we're also going to end up with a foam with a lot more volume. We will continue making the foam until we form medium stiff peaks. If we continued to make stiff peaks as you would in whipped cream, the foam would actually fall apart.
Okay, let's make a vinaigrette. It should be simple. It's just oil and vinegar. However, this is a polar solution and this is a non-polar solution. These two things aren't going to come together very well. We need something to get us around that. We need something that has both a polar section and a non-polar section, i.e. something that's amphiphilic. In order for us to bring the vinegar and oil together, we're going to need something that has a polar region and a non-polar region. As I said before, an amphiphile. There's a bunch of amphiphiles in the kitchen. One good example is soap. However, soap is kind of weird tasting, and I really don't want soap in my vinaigrette, so we're going to go with something else. For instance, we can use phospholipids, and there's lots of phospholipids in the kitchen, because all cell membranes have phospholipids. So a good example of that is in the egg yolk. There's tons of phospholipids there. And we can even get phospholipids from mustard. So we can use these phospholipids to keep these two things together so our vinaigrette will last longer. If you don't believe me that phospholipids can help these two things stay together, just check out this time-lapse video.
This time-lapse video shows that the vinaigrette containing only oil and vinegar separates within 15 to 20 minutes, while the vinaigrettes containing either mustard or egg yolk take up to 20 hours to completely separate. While the time-lapse continues, let's look at what's happening in each jar. Before the vinaigrette was shaken up, we had a layer of oil on top of vinegar. As we shake up the jar, we get tiny droplets of vinegar suspended in oil. However, over time, these droplets will coalesce into larger droplets that will settle to the bottom, resulting in the two layers again. By adding phospholipids from egg yolk or mustard, the vinaigrette will stay together longer. This is because the polar heads of the phospholipids will interact with the vinegar droplet, while the non-polar tails will interact with the oil, allowing the droplets to be dissolved in the oil for a longer period of time. This process is known as emulsification. Almost 20 hours later, the vinaigrettes containing mustard or egg yolks are still separating. We have created a longer-lasting vinaigrette by using phospholipids, in particular lecithin, also known as phosphatidylcholine. In order to make our vinaigrette, we're going to need the following items: garlic powder, pepper, kosher salt, honey, a jar with a lid, mustard, red wine vinegar, and oil. We will stir it by adding 3/8 of a cup of oil. You could use olive oil for this, and it would be traditional, but I don't like the taste of olive oil, so I'm going to stick with vegetable oil. We will now add 1/8 of a cup of red wine vinegar. You'll notice that that's 3 parts oil, 1 part vinegar. That's the standard ratio for oil to vinegar in a vinaigrette. We're now going to add 1 teaspoon of mustard, which contains our all-important phospholipids. We're now going to attempt to add some honey for sweetness, and as usual, honey is not going to want to come out of the jar, so it's going to take me several tries to get it out. It's going to make a wonderful sound in the process. We're going to add a little kosher salt to our vinaigrette to increase the flavor of it. You can add as much or as little as you want. We're going to follow that up with some garlic powder for some extra flavor. Follow the garlic powder with black pepper. Salads always taste better with black pepper. Now I'm going to put it on our lid, making sure it's nice and tight because it might get messy, and give it a good shake.
And there we have it.